Ever notice how every time you go to pick your seat, the only options left are middles in the back? All the aisle seats are taken. The good rows near the front are blocked. Unless, of course, you want to pay $30 extra. There's a reason it always feels that way. Airlines are playing a game with their seat maps, and once you see how it works, you're going to wish you'd known years ago. But that's just the first thing. We're also covering the one seat you should never book on any plane, where to sit if turbulence makes you miserable, a booking trick that often gets couples an entire row to themselves, and how to get upgraded without spending a dime. 20 minutes from now, you'll know more about airplane seating than most flight attendants. First, let's talk about the seat you should avoid at all costs. Every plane has one location that combines almost every possible problem, and that's the last row. Your seat probably doesn't recline because there's a wall directly behind you. You're pressed against the lavatory, so every time that door opens, you hear it. Every smell that escapes reaches you first. The galley is usually back there too, which means clanking carts, crew conversations, and mystery odors from whatever they're heating up. Then there's turbulence. When a plane hits rough air, it pivots around its center of gravity near the wings. The nose drops 10 feet, the tail swings 30. Sitting in the last row means feeling every bump amplified. And after enduring all of that, you board first and deplane last. Everyone ahead of you has to exit before you can even stand up. Some people genuinely prefer the back. Fewer passengers wandering by, more likely to have empty seats nearby on a light flight. But most people who end up there didn't choose it. They got stuck because they didn't know better. Now, if turbulence is something that genuinely bothers you, seat location makes a bigger difference than most people realize. The smoothest ride on any plane is directly over the wings. That's where the center of gravity sits. When the plane pitches and rolls, you're at the pivot point while the nose and tail swing around you. Look at the seat map before you book. Find where the wing meets the fuselage. That's your target zone. 1 or 2 rows behind the wing is usually the sweet spot. If you're particularly sensitive to motion, a few other things help. Choose an aisle seat so you can focus down the length of the cabin toward a fixed point. Skip coffee before boarding since caffeine makes nausea worse. Stay hydrated. Bring ginger chews or ginger tea bags. There's actual research showing ginger helps, and even if you're skeptical, they're cheap insurance. Turbulence isn't the only thing that makes a flight miserable, though. Sometimes it's the constant noise around you, which brings us to where the quiet seats actually are. Noise comes from 3 sources up there: engines, passengers, and crew. You can't escape engine noise completely, but you can reduce it by sitting ahead of the engines rather than beside or behind them. On most planes, that means forward of the wing. The trade-off is you're farther from the smoothest ride zone, so you're choosing between quiet and stable. Passenger noise clusters around gathering spots. The galley attracts people hunting for extra water or snacks. The lavatory attracts everyone. The rows directly next to either tend to have constant foot traffic, conversations, and that lovely door slam every few minutes. Window seats are generally quieter than aisle seats because you're exposed to fewer passersby. One neighbor instead of a parade. But you sacrifice easy bathroom access, and if you need to get up regularly, that matters. Which brings up the question everyone asks: window or aisle? This isn't about which is objectively better. Both have real trade-offs, and the right choice depends on what you actually need. Window seats let you lean against the wall and sleep without a stranger's shoulder as your pillow. You control the shade. Nobody climbs over you, but you're also trapped. Every bathroom trip means disturbing 1 or 2 people. On a 4-hour flight, that gets awkward fast. On an 8-hour flight, it becomes a genuine problem. Aisle seats give you freedom. Stand up whenever you want. Stretch your legs during cruise. Get to the lavatory without a production. On tight connections, you deplane faster because you're not waiting for rowmates to collect their things before you can move. The downside is exposure. Drink carts clip your elbow. Passengers bump you walking past. You're the one who stands up when your rowmates need out. For anyone who needs to move regularly, whether that's circulation concerns, joint stiffness, or just a small bladder, the aisle almost always wins. Function beats scenery when your body's at stake. But if you're traveling with someone, there's a third option that often beats both. Don't book 2 seats next to each other. Book the window and the aisle in the same row. Leave the middle empty. Airlines fill middle seats last. Nobody wants them. If the flight isn't completely full, that middle seat stays empty and you've claimed a row to yourselves. More space. Somewhere to put your things. Room to breathe. What if someone gets assigned to that middle? No problem. Just offer to trade seats. Ask if they'd prefer your window or aisle so you can sit together. In the entire history of commercial aviation, nobody has turned down an upgrade from a middle seat. They'll happily swap. You'll sit together and you've lost nothing. This works best toward the back of the plane since those rows fill last. Check the seat map when booking. If the flight looks relatively light, your odds are good. Sometimes every trick fails though. The flight is packed. Every window and aisle is taken. You're stuck in the middle, and when that happens, you need a survival strategy. The middle seat exists as a compromise that satisfies no one. You're wedged between strangers, fighting for armrest territory, running warmer because you're sandwiched between body heat. First, understand the unwritten rule. The middle seat gets both armrests. The window has the wall. The aisle has the legroom and easy escape. The middle gets the armrests as compensation. Claim them early. Not aggressively, just confidently. Settle in, place your elbows, own the space. Second, headphones go on immediately. Even if you're not playing anything, they signal unavailability. Third, dress in layers because you'll run warm. Having a jacket you can remove beats suffering in silence. And if you see empty seats elsewhere after boarding completes, ask a flight attendant if you can relocate. A. Be polite. Wait until they're not busy. Something like, I noticed row 14 is open. Would it be all right if I move there? Usually they'll say yes. The plane is about to leave. Seat assignments stop mattering. One small thing that helps in any seat. On the underside of most aisle and middle armrests, near the hinge, there's a small button or lever. Most passengers never notice it. Press it and the armrest lifts up completely. For aisle seats, this means swinging your legs out without climbing over a barrier. Much easier to exit, much easier to stretch. For middle seats, lifting both armrests gives you a few extra inches of width. Window armrests usually don't have this feature since they're built into the wall panel. So, on your next flight, run your fingers along the underside of your armrest. If there's a button, you found a small upgrade that costs nothing. Speaking of upgrades that cost nothing, two seat types offer significantly more legroom, and sometimes they're available for free. Bulkhead seats sit at the front of each cabin section, right behind the wall that divides classes. No seat in front means nobody reclining into your space and usually more room for your legs. The trade-offs are real, though. You have no underseat storage during takeoff and landing, so everything goes overhead. The tray table folds out of your armrest, making it smaller and slightly awkward to use. And bulkhead rows often have bassinets mounted on that front wall. More infants nearby, more crying. Exit row seats offer the most legroom on the plane. But airlines require you to help in emergencies. You need to lift about 50 pounds, stay alert during takeoff and landing, and communicate with crew in their language. If you have mobility limitations or prefer sleeping through safety briefings, the exit row isn't appropriate. Exit rows also sometimes don't recline, may have fixed armrests, and have those smaller tray tables. Worth checking the seat map details before committing. Neither option is perfect. But if the trade-offs don't bother you, both are worth targeting. Which brings us to when those seats actually become available. By the way, if you find this video helpful or like this style of content, please consider subscribing for more travel tips. Remember how I said airlines are playing a game with their seat maps? Here's what's actually happening. When you pull up that seat map, most good seats show as occupied or blocked. But many of them aren't occupied at all. Airlines use placeholder blocks to make planes look fuller than they are. When you see the good aisle seats taken, the extra legroom rows blocked and only middles available, you face a choice. Accept a bad seat or pay for an upgrade. Airlines are betting you'll pay. But those placeholder seats have to disappear eventually. Real passengers need real assignments. And that happens in a predictable window. Check the seat map 24 hours before departure. Check again at 12 hours. Watch what happens. Seats that were occupied for weeks suddenly become available. That aisle in row 12 you wanted? Open. That window near the front? Free. The plane didn't get emptier. The airline just stopped pretending. This is why timing matters more than most travelers realize. If you only look at the seat map when you book, you're seeing the most manipulated version. If you check again right before departure, you're seeing something closer to reality. There's an even more specific window that releases premium seats entirely. Airlines hold certain seats, the extra legroom rows, the preferred locations, and don't release them for free selection until close to departure. They want to sell those as upgrades for as long as possible. When online check-in opens, usually 23 to 24 hours before your flight, those held seats get released. The extra legroom row that wanted $50 yesterday? Now available at no charge. Set a reminder for exactly when your check-in window opens. Log in the moment it's available. Those released seats disappear fast because frequent flyers know this timing. Then check again a few hours later. Seats shuffle as other passengers make changes. Something better might appear. This single habit, checking in at exactly the right time and monitoring for changes, will save you money and frustration on almost every flight. You shouldn't be checking the airline seat map alone, though. There are tools that show information airlines would rather you not see. Airline seat maps show you what they want you to see: available seats, blocked seats, and upgrade prices. They don't show which seats have misaligned windows, limited recline, or missing power outlets. A site called Aerolopa has detailed diagrams of almost every aircraft configuration flying. You can see exactly where the windows actually line up with seats, which rows have restricted recline, where the power outlets are missing, and dozens of details airlines don't advertise. Another site, seatmaps.com, lets you enter your flight number and see passenger reviews of individual seats. Real travelers sharing which ones are great, which ones are disasters, and why. Some routes even show near real-time occupancy so you can see how full your actual flight is. 2 minutes on these sites before booking can save you from nasty surprises. a window seat with no actual window, an aisle seat directly in the bathroom traffic path, a row with extra legroom that airlines don't promote. Free tools, better information, smarter choices. And if you're hoping for something even better than a good economy seat, sometimes you can get upgraded for free. Free upgrades still happen. Not as often as they used to, but they happen. And certain factors improve your odds. Solo travelers get bumped up first. Moving one person is easier than moving a couple or family. If the airline needs to balance the cabin or fill an empty premium seat, singles are the path of least resistance. Early check-in helps. The earlier you're in the system, the more visible you are when upgrade decisions happen. Gate agent interactions matter more than people realize. Gate agents have discretion. They're also human beings dealing with stressed travelers all day. Being genuinely polite and pleasant makes you memorable in a good way. Being demanding or rude makes you memorable in a way that helps nobody. Looking reasonably put together doesn't hurt either. You don't need a suit. You just need to not look like you've been sleeping in the airport for 3 days. Airlines are protective of the premium cabin atmosphere. If you want to try something direct, say this. If you need to balance the load or fill any empty seats, I'm flexible. You're not begging. You're offering to solve their problem, and sometimes that's enough. Now, upgrades are nice, but sometimes the priority isn't luxury. It's speed. If you have a tight connection, seat location determines everything. The front of the plane empties first. Every row forward saves roughly 30 seconds to a minute in exit time. Row 30 might mean waiting 15 minutes after landing before you can even stand. Row 5 gets you off in 2. Aisle beats window for speed, because you're not waiting for rowmates to gather their bags. For maximum speed, choose the front aisle seat. If you know your connection is tight, this matters more than comfort. Getting off fast could mean making your next flight versus spending 4 unplanned hours in a terminal. If front rows are taken, at least avoid the back third. The difference is significant. But seat location isn't the only thing that affects how you feel at the end of a flight. The plane itself also affects how you feel when you land. Newer wide-body planes like the Boeing 787 and Airbus A350 maintain higher cabin pressure and humidity than older aircraft. You land feeling less drained, less dehydrated, less destroyed. The windows are larger. The cabins are quieter. The lighting adjusts to help your internal clock. When booking, look at which aircraft operates the route. Most sites show this information. If you're choosing between an older 767 and a newer 787 at similar prices, take the 787. You won't notice the difference during the flight. You'll notice it when you land and don't feel like you've been tumble-dried. Of course, no plane makes up for an uncomfortable seat, which is why what you bring on board matters. Your seat is fixed once you sit down. Your comfort isn't. A small lumbar support, or even a rolled-up jacket at your lower back, transforms a mediocre seat into a reasonable one. Airplane seats have essentially no lumbar support built in. Bringing your own takes 30 seconds and makes hours of difference. Noise-canceling headphones block more than crying babies. They cut engine drone, galley clatter, and that low-frequency hum that causes fatigue even when you don't notice it. Totally worth the investment if you fly regularly. Compression socks aren't glamorous, but on flights over 4 hours, they help circulation. Especially valuable if you're in a window or middle seat where moving is harder. None of these fix a bad seat, but they make a mediocre seat tolerable and a good seat excellent. And here one last move. After boarding completes, right before the doors close, look around the cabin. If you see empty rows or better seats, ask a flight attendant if you can move. Wait until they're not rushing through final tasks. Keep it simple. I noticed row 14 is empty. Would it be okay if I move there? Usually they say yes. The plane is about to push back. Seat assignments have served their purpose. This works especially well on flights that looked full during booking but had no shows. You check in expecting a middle seat and end up with an entire row. Doesn't always work, but asking costs nothing. So here's the sequence for every flight from now on. When you book, check the seat map on Airlopa or seatmaps.com first. Know which seats have problems. Avoid the last row, stay away from galleys and lavatories. If turbulence bothers you, target the wing area. If you're traveling with someone, try the window aisle empty middle strategy. 23 hours before departure. Check in the moment the window opens. Hunt for released premium seats and better locations. Check again at 12 hours. Those fake occupied seats will have started disappearing. Grab anything good that opens up. At the airport, be pleasant to gate agents. Mention you're flexible if they need to move anyone. After boarding, scope out the cabin before doors close. If something better is empty, ask to move. None of this requires elite status. None of it costs money. It just requires knowing what airlines aren't eager to tell you. Now, you know. Safe travels.